Just 7 drivers remain with a stage set ahead of them on the route to a championship, and it continues out west, where we welcome you to live coverage of the iRacing Bundren Lawn Care Series playoffs from the Auto Club Speedway here in Fontana, California. 1 race in, 2 races to go until we decide the 4 that will be fighting for a title at Phoenix Raceway, and we'll be in the booth for all of it, being myself, Kenneth Bueno, and of course, Charlie Baier here on the KBueno Racing Network. Well, Charlie, this was the same talking point at the start of the playoffs when we began this entirety, and it stands true here after the opening round of the playoffs. In the second round, get 1 race set up. Now you're going to have to close it out within these final 2 races here and at Bristol next week.
And now we're starting to get into that crunch time kind of mentality here. You know, we went through the first race there, I believe, at Kansas, and then everyone kind of got a feel, all the playoff drivers kind of got a feel with where they're at and what kind of improvements they need to make. Now these next 2 races, you really need to focus on getting that track position. It's kind of a smaller field here tonight. We only have 17 cars who are registered in this session with us here. So, you know, a lot of these playoff guys, with that smaller field, it's a really good opportunity to gain a lot of points, especially with people like Hunter Johnson and also Aaron Mulrooney, who aren't with us this week.
And after last week's race at Kansas, you just mentioned 17 drivers in this session, way less than what we have seen within the past couple of weeks. We've had a max of about 37 drivers, I'd say. We're now a lower field here, but we saw the implications that followed with either playoff drivers involved in wrecks or having issues, like we saw with Blaze McKinney. We saw this with Glenn Bundren. We saw Parker White move all the way up to 5th, but here's where the playoffs stand in terms of the point standings following after Kansas last week. Nick Miller is locked into the championship 4. He punched his ticket with a win at Kansas last week. Unfortunately, we were not able to bring you that finish, but nonetheless, he is locked into the championship 4 at Phoenix Raceway. Parker White, who was the points leader, now is still pretty much comfortable in the points, 23 points ahead of the cutoff. And Blaze McKinney, 12 points ahead after wrecking at Kansas last week, and Glenn Bundren now just 2 points ahead of the cutoff. Once we go to Bristol, J.J. Hill, Keelan Belsha, Ezekiel Reyes are the final ones that need to fight their way in. And now that Nick Miller has already won this race, at least he won Kansas, and now of all times is where the points start to separate a little more, things start to get tighter, and things start to distinguish, especially with Ezekiel Reyes, who missed last week's race, now down in points, and everyone pretty much fighting up for that final spot in 4th place.
And like I said, it's a really good opportunity for people like J.J. Hill, who's only 2 points below the cutoff. If Glenn Bundren just has 1 bad run, he's gonna be shoved below the cutoff, and J.J. Hill could use that to his advantage to maybe get himself in a good spot going into Bristol. And you know, the goal for these guys is to be above it going into Bristol, because Bristol is definitely going to be a toss-up. That's a short track for the ages right there. It's the unpredictability there is insane, and I can assure you that a lot of good cars are going to be taken out next week. That's just my prediction, but you know, we're at Auto Club this week, so we're going to focus on that and just 1 more race till we get there.
Still going to be a lot of fun, and of course this track, we're going to get a little more info about this track, and the graphic will show up to the right side of your screen on what this track is all about. Of course, the oval configuration here at Auto Club Speedway, 2 miles around this track, so more comparatively to Michigan that we saw a couple races back early in the season. We saw how much the runs affected on the fresh tires, how close everyone was together. Possibly going to expect the same thing going into here at Auto Club. 4 turns around here, 3,649 feet above sea level, so we're pretty high up off the ground here in California, Fontana. Track temp at 111 degrees, so very, very hot. But of course, over the course of the evening, we're going to get into the sunset, then into the night, so things are going to sim racing events taking place here at this very track. So once again, we approach a 2-mile track. At the last time we were at a track, at least comparative, was I mentioned Michigan, and we saw some of the drivers in the playoffs now that were going for the win there. We saw Blaze McKinney, we saw Nick Miller, we saw a couple other drivers in the mix there as well. And Charlie, if there's really anyone to watch for in this race, do you think Blaze might be the one who might be the hungriest in terms of getting a win after struggling at Kansas last week?
Yeah, Blaze is definitely a hungry driver. It's been a little bit since we've seen him, and he dominated the first half of the season, but this last half, some of the other drivers such as Nick Miller and and Hunter Johnson really got the best of him and really put him at a disadvantage there. But now those two people are gone, so I think Blaze McKinney is really going to be a threat tonight. Also, Parker White, who made a fantastic late run in the evening last week, at Kansas, and he really pulled off a good finish there. So I think those two, the top two in points, I believe, are really going to be fighting for it.
Yeah, it's going to be an absolute dogfight for the points, and especially going into Bristol, where we'll have the elimination race and decide the 4 that will fight for the title. And we still got more action to cover here at Auto Club, though. And Parker White, you mentioned, driver who rallied up to a 5th place finish at Kansas after pretty much stacking, being in the back the entire race. We were kind of mentioning him over the broadcast last week and saying, oh, maybe he had somewhat of a trick up his sleeve. Everything started to kind of click off for that 95 team. He rallied to 5th, and that really helped him at least maintain where he was, 23 points above the cutoff. And he is looking very well. He's going to try to continue that going into tonight's race here at Auto Club. Practice is pretty much just warmed up. That means we pretty much have qualifying now underway, and lots of drivers are going to start getting their laps in. We're going to see the drivers are working at least around the racetrack, trying to get under this slick surface that we have at least momentarily under the sun. So there's still a lot to go. And talking about last race, what a race we had there at Kansas. Not sure what we were really expecting at Kansas, most notably considering that it's a high line track. Over the long run, you see drivers just go up to the high line. You see single file mostly between there. But Charlie, we saw a phenomenal race with so many drivers like the ones we're seeing here in this session, working together, drivers maneuvering the draft, and drivers are pretty much being aggressive, making moves to the inside, making those slide jobs happen, pretty much being 2 and 3 wide out there. Lots of expectations that were surpassed there at Kansas, and we saw a phenomenal race with lots of drivers and a lot of drama as well.
Yeah, and along with all that good racing and drama, there was also a lot of wrecks, and that really took a lot of good contenders out, and that really put Glenn Bundren closer to the cutoff than he wanted there. Obviously, he was close firsthand, but it really cut him down just 2 points above the cutoff. So I think that track last week really is really a make or break deal with some of these playoff guys. So I wouldn't be surprised if this track is any different, because this track is way wider, but there's a lot more room to race each other. So I would expect that good racing to carry over into this week.
And you're looking at one of the drivers who needs a pretty much a must-win situation to get into the championship for. That is the 04 of Ezekiel Reyes, who missed last week's outing due to he felt sick, so he decided not to run at Kansas last week. Unfortunately, he's better now, so he will be able to run tonight's race. As you see him putting his qualifying laps in. He desperately needs the points more than anyone, Charlie, and we saw this happen at Talladega, where he needed those points, not exactly so deep of a hole, but he was 0 points above the cutoff. Any position change could have easily took him out of the playoffs and eliminated him quickly at Talladega, but luckily he was able to rally back. He was able to stick where he was, and he ended up getting into this round, now into the round of 7. And is there really something you have to put out? Is there a miraculous effort that you have to do if you're this 04 team, if you really want to get into this championship 4, considering you have a couple other drivers who have that advantage that they ran last week?
And right as we were talking to him, he just went to the top of the board. But yeah, this race is going to be pretty crucial for Zeke, and to really try to get a win, or at least put himself in position to have another strong run next week and maybe punch his ticket into the Final 4. But we're just going to have to see how it all plays out tonight. This track, a lot of these tracks this season, especially with these Cup cars in the high downforce package, they're all going to be toss-ups, and I'm going to keep talking about that. But, yeah, it's, like I said, opportunities are going to show up, and people are going to take them, especially for these playoff guys.
Yeah, opportunities are going to be seized here and throughout for a lot of these playoff drivers. Of course, you have the mix of the guys that are not even in the playoffs and are running these races. They're being competitive as well. They're running up front. We saw it at Kansas. We've seen it all over this series, especially through the latter portion of this season, where we're seeing drivers who aren't even in the playoffs make runs for the win. Those drivers are, they have nothing to lose. They don't have any points to think about, and they have really nothing to worry about, so they just go out and go for it, try to get the win. Most notably the driver we're looking at right now, the 49 of Sartaj Maan, who barely almost had the win there over Nick Miller, his teammate, at Kansas. So he was one of those drivers aggressive. He was one of those drivers making moves up front. There's a driver that might be worrying about the playoffs a little bit more. Playoff driver J.J. Hill, who ran significantly great at Kansas last week. and now looking for a better one. He's still under the cutoff, but remember, he's just 2 points shy from Glenn Bundren. So any of those little moves, any of those little track position changes can really help out this 02A team into getting into the championship 4. We're going to look at the weather before we go into the grading. You'll see the weather and where exactly the climate is here at California, Fontana. 65 degrees air temperature, winds all the way to the west, 5 miles per hour. Won't be too much to deal with, but we're seeing some drivers already struggling hitting the wall and such. 1% humidity, very dry out here in the California landscape, so we won't see anything in that nature. No fog, so pretty much visibility is clear as day, or clear as night, as we'll see over the course of this evening, and partly cloudy conditions. So it's a practically perfect day, a perfect night to get racing underway. And playoff racing, it's going to kind of heat things up, and it's going to get a lot more intense as we go through this race. The qualifying is just about to end. You're looking at Mark Love, who's now putting in his qualifying times with just about 5 seconds left in the qualifying session. Brody Garner currently tops your charts, and as it ticks down to 0, most likely will be your pole sitter as they start to grid onto the pit road, and they'll get everything. You see how quick it changes from the day in the practice session and the qualifying all the way to the sunset. So way different conditions we're seeing over the course of this race that these drivers will have to challenge, and the lights will start to flicker on, and we'll have intense racing from there on out. You're seeing the drivers now loading in, and you see a couple of playoff drivers inside, most notably the 04 95 37. We'll have a couple more getting themselves in, loading themselves for what will be a race that will see if it's comparative to Michigan. So competitive, so wild, and we can see how that will work. So we'll get the grid started for you, see where everyone is starting. On the pole is the 55er Brody Garner, Charlotte Roval race winner. Going to look to go at 2 wins in this season, set a 40.201. That was enough to set him on the pole for tonight's action. And right alongside him, the driver we were mentioning, Charlie, driver who needs points, and it basically is in a must-win situation, Ezekiel Reyes in the 04. He starts on the outside of row 1.
I just want to point out how close that pole time was to second place. 1,000th of a second there between the 55 and the 02. Moving on to row number 2, Andy McDowell will reign here with us in the LWRC Cup Series. Same track, same car, but a new league for him. And he'll start third, right behind your pole sitter, the 55. And to his outside, LWRC driver himself, Cole Williams, in that 42 car, driving. Yeah, he's starting fourth.
And back to row number 3 is a driver who struggled at Kansas last week, looking for a better run. He starts on row 3, the inside. In the top 5, Glenn Bundren, the grassman himself, will start in 5th. And right alongside him, driver who's comfortable right behind Nick Miller, finished 5th last week, the 95 of Parker White.
And you see that outside moving up. I believe the 04 of Ezekiel Reyes did not grid up. So row number 4, Nick Miller slides up to starting in the 6th spot. That 88 car, Nick Miller, into his inside, the 017 of Darren Myers.
Row number 5 will consist of Mark Love in the 43, and right to his outside, driver who's now returning to the action, the 54, Grayson Trexler. Glad to see him back on track.
Right behind them, Blaze McKinney, furthest back we've seen him, I believe, in series history, starting 11th. And to his outside, Keelan Belshot, number 18, car driving for E Media Racing, partner with us, KBRN. That'll round out row number 6.
And then back to row number 7 is EO Media Racing driver JJ Hill, right behind his fellow teammate. He starts into 13th. Right to the side of him, a driver who struggled at Kansas, involved in some incidents, looking for a better run. Led some laps at Vegas, the number 35 of Peter Kenny.
All right, him, Sartaj Manu, ran with us in a few races, came up oh so short last week at Kansas. He starts 15th, James Jumpman starts 15th, and that'll round out your field, or at least for the time being, because we're getting ready to go green here. And we're going to take the green flag for 70 laps here at Auto Club.
70 laps here at California under the sunset. The 2 Chevrolet Camaros will lead your field to green. Brody Garner, Charlotte Roval winner, and LWRC regular Cole Williams will be the front row. Ezekiel Reyes will start further back. We'll take the front straightaway, and the green flag for the first time in round number 2, race 2 of the playoffs. It all starts right here.
steady as of right now. Brody Garner leads them all at bay. Grayson Structure to the bottom, 3 wide for 3rd place, and these guys are fanning out all over the place on the front straightaway. Brody Garner will lead lap number 1. Oh, and a wreck!
Huge crash. There's Parker White around. Andy McDowell. Grayson Trexler got a piece of that. Keelan Belsha also in there as well. And a caution on lap number 2 involves numerous playoff contenders, including the one that was 23 points above the cutoff. Now with early damage, like we saw at a couple races past. Oh boy, that was quick. It all happened when they were going 3 wide into turn 1. It looked to be clean from there, and I think they just kind of did not leave each other enough space. We'll just take a replay, see exactly what was the cause of this incident. But you see the damage to the 95 right on the front end. Pretty much it is completely gone. And that helps Ezekiel Reyes, who did not grid. We'll take a replay. They were going 3 wide. There's Grayson Trexler, and it just going up the racetrack. Contact with him in the 20 of Andy McDowell in the 95. Keelan Belsh also got a tap, I believe, from James Youngerman as soon as they were trying to slow down for this wreck. Boy, lots of drivers in this tango. You see there were 3 wide right here. Looked to be pretty harmless. They were kind of working for position right behind the race leaders. Dares the contact kind of pinned them into a wall, and then the 95 got into the wall. Peter Kenny got some damage from that as well. Blaze McKinney was one of the drivers to escape, along with all the drivers to the inside. I think we'll get another look and see what happened with Keelan Belsha. He was also involved in this one as well. He was with James Youngman back here in the 23. We'll be in car cam with him. This was his view. And just contact with the 23, and I think maybe some extra help from the 80 of Youngerman. Not sure whether they made contact. That was Eli O'Quinn. But a caution on lap number 2 puts numerous playoff drivers in trouble.
Yeah, that's not what you like to see early on, and it looks like they just kind of ran out of room on the front straightaway. The 54, still with a clean car, and I'm not sure if I'm not sure. I don't really have an opinion on that. I think these guys were just jostling for position pretty early on, and it kind of broke out going into turn number 1. But that'll be our first caution for the night. Grayson Trexler currently sitting 3rd right now. He might have gotten EOL for being the cause of that wreck, but looks like 7th on back is all pitting.
Yeah, there's Cole Williams down pit road. Andy McDowell, of course, getting his damage. Brody Garner did not go down pit road. So we have kind of a split between some of the drivers who were out here on the first run. Mark Love will be the first one off pit road in front of Cole Williams. He takes the jump. And there'll be another driver right behind him. That's the Toyota Camry. That is Aaron Mulrooney in the number 2 machine. And a couple other drivers exiting there as well. Nick Miller is, I believe that's Ezekiel Reyes. No, that's James Youngman, actually. They're running the same paint scheme. So those two will come out. Darren Myers will be out of here as well on pit road. And we have a couple drivers down pit road, at least most notably the drivers with damage getting themselves fixed up. But surprised to see some of the drivers at least who were kind of clear from this incident get some damage repair. Grayson Trexler, word from the officials, he will be moved to the rear of the field at an EOL for the incident there. So that moves Glenn Bundren up to 2nd with a little crinkle on the back end, and Blaze McKinney up to 3rd. How about that? We saw him at Kansas. He got into an incident with Miller just a couple of deep into that race, and now he's up to 3rd and easily in lap number 4. You can really get in a lot of positions in the draft.
And good wreck avoidance by that number 87 car. Checked up pretty early and was able to get by it. So one benefit for being on a large track is we do have shorter caution flags. Much like a super speedway, iRacing reduced the amount of caution laps. So we're going to go ahead and get the run to green pretty quickly here. That's about 3 caution laps. So that's good to see. iRacing helping us out with a little bit of filler in the broadcast. So yeah, we're gonna get back going here on lap number 6.
Lap number 6 will be the continuation of this race and the restart. Just a reminder that if you want to join the conversation with us up here in the booth, you can do so in the YouTube chat by using hashtag AskKBRN. Just put the hashtag AskKBRN followed by your question. Be sure to answer it just as soon as you send it. That's hashtag AskKBRN, where you can join the conversation. We have just, I believe, 2 questions to handle before we go green. One by Reese Kupski Graphics. He asked, best food to watch this race. He also made note that on Kobe Bryant Day, we're running at California, so that's a nice tribute for a living legend in the NBA. Passed away earlier this year. But Charlie, best food, I think, if you had any food choice, what would you pick, at least for this race at California? Maybe California-themed food?
Yeah. but I'm in Illinois, so before the race I went ahead and grabbed a Nutri-Grain granola bar, a couple of those for the race. That's usually my go-to snack, but for the viewers at home, popcorn works really well, especially for how exciting of a race this is.
Lots of drama. Gonna need that popcorn for sure. And I'm in Miami, so I don't think no California meeting dinner, at least in that point. But regardless, we're gonna have single file restarts from the officials. The pace car will come down pit road. 3 Camaros will lead the top 3. It'll be Garner, Bundren, McKinney. And green flag is out, and we already have a wreck down the front straightaway. Aaron Maroney is involved. Continues to get piled on. That is Grayson Trexler. We had a couple drivers in the grass. Maybe just a stack up. There's Darren Myers in there. Parker White maybe just trying to slow down. Eli O'Quinn with damage. Looks to be no scratches on the 95. Possibly the fast repair being used early. But I guess maybe popcorn might not be it for it right now. We're continuing to have wrecks early in this race. We'll take another shot at what happened there. That was coming to the restart. Might have just been a stack up, I think, between when you're going single file. Maybe some drivers start to stack up. Here is where it kind of all started, and there was a huge check up there. There's Maroney getting turned around. Darren Myers. There's a 35 of Peter Kenny there. I saw Nick Miller, I think, barely in there as well. I saw a couple of drivers. No, actually, that is I believe, William Schmidt in the 041. So he is there as well. We're on board with Eli Quinn, and just checked up right to the back of Darren Myers, collecting Peter Kenny, and the 54 there around as well. So interesting development as we got to crash another one on lap 6. That'll definitely force us into another single file restart.
Yeah, you don't like to see these cautions earlier. Grayson Trexler, I'm not sure if you can correct me if I'm sorry. He came out of that first wreck with no damage, so he's gonna have to go in and take his fast repair. Also, you mentioned Parker White. He took his fast repair after looking like a modified the same way as Grayson Trexler, but he checked up pretty early trying to save his race car because he is vulnerable to still dropping out of the final 4 picture right now. So being a little bit conservative in that McGrath SimSport Toyota Camry number 95. So yeah, that's it's not what you like to see.
Early wreckage on lap number 7 will allow for drivers who at least got damaged, some drivers who did not, to go down pit road. Nicky Miller, Parker White being some of those drivers, and of course the drivers who were involved in that wreck. Grayson Trexler, Eli O'Quinn, Darren Myers, Peter Kenny, all of them. Grayson Trexler, I just mentioned that he had the damage. Well, he did not. He had barely any damage, at least from that first wreck. Yeah, I saw a little crinkle on the right front, but it wasn't enough to really affect the car aerodynamically. It wasn't too much damage to kind of look at. It was something you can kind of overlook and continue on with no issues. But now he's going to definitely need the fast repair, or at least try to stick this one out until later in the race if he's using that strategy. So we'll be under caution once again. Luckily, on the iRacing side of things, they added the rule for tracks that are 2 miles or above that they will limit the amount of laps you go under yellow. So we'll have just about a lap or so left until we go back green. So we'll go easily back to the green flag. Not as much waiting time in terms of trying to stay patient, waiting for these cautions to continue to cycle around, like we saw at tracks like maybe say North Wilkesboro, maybe Richmond, Homestead, such of the smaller tracks that are under 2 miles. But regardless, we got a question down in the YouTube chat, one by LVB, asks, besides In-N-Out Burger, which is a great point because I should have brought that up in terms of the food, California, most notably for In-N-Out Burger. She asks, would you ever live in California? Charlie, I know you live in Illinois. We live both pretty far from California, but if you ever got a shot at it, maybe California might be it. I don't know. It's a good question.
Well, In-N-Out would be the only reason, the only valid reason that I would move over to the West Coast, but I'm kind of more of an East Coast person. Places like North Carolina and Florida, some places. Miami looks really nice. Charlotte looks really nice. All those cities over there. I'm not really a big fan of the West Coast. So, I mean, if I were to live anywhere in the world, it would be probably somewhere along the Atlantic Ocean. So I'm gonna go with no on California.
Well, yeah, I think once you have that allegiance to one side of the country, you kind of like to stick there. I mean, unless you're in the Midwest, maybe you just kind of like to be split in the middle there. But yeah, in terms of Atlantic Ocean, East Coast side, I think I'd like to stay there. I know Charlotte's a beautiful city. I've been there before. I know lots of places up east. I know New York City, one of the more notable places in the country, one of the more popular places in the country. I know you have Chicago, which is a little more east, but it's not too far out west to be considered in the middle of the country. But California, I think, beautiful, beautiful state. I know they're currently dealing with the wildfires. That's certainly affecting a lot of people and a lot of, the firefighters having to be hard at work. So all of our support goes to them trying to fight that. And, compiled with the whole pandemic, I think it's tough for California at the moment. But showing some love to California by going hopefully green here at the Auto Club Speedway. Brody Garner will continue to lead this field, followed by Glenn Bundren and Blaze McKinney. Top 3 pretty much has not changed, and pretty much everyone in this top 5 have not changed, apart from Aaron Mulrooney right behind Cole Williams. Will take the green flag on the front straightaway, lap number 9. Brody Garner will easily shoot in front of the entire field. The 2 Peak Performance Motorsports teammates will try to work together. And it's all about drafting these early stages, Charlie, especially when you got those fresh tires on hand.
A lot of these guys are a lot more spread out coming to that green flag because they saw what happened on the last restart. So these 2 are probably the most dynamic duo out of the field right now. They work really well together on Super Speedways. At 37 and the 87, those 2, my gosh, they are inseparable at some of these tracks, and they are almost tandem drafting. They get by the 55. Also, 2 playoff drivers each of them are. But also another playoff driver, JJ Hill, currently sitting third.
And JJ had a strong one at Kansas last week. We mentioned it a couple times. He was the highest, at least the 3rd highest playoff driver, besides the battle between Nick Miller and Blaze McKinney. Obviously, he's 3rd now in terms of playoff drivers here, but JJ Hill, phenomenal run at the moment. We got a crash in the front straightaway on the grass, and a yellow flag once again. Lap number 10 involves the 80 of James Youngerman. I'm not sure who the other driver was identified on the bottom of the racetrack at the time. We'll have to take another replay. That is the 027 involved there. So those will be the 2 at least involved in this wreck early on. So another quick yellow on lap number 10. That's our 3rd of the night. That's Kadarius Tave. He's run a couple races. He's been involved in some crashes in this series. We'll take a look. This was 2 wide, battling for, I think behind Grayson Trexler. This is further outside the top 10, and they're battling 2 wide off turn 4. And then I think, and yeah, that's contact with the wall, actually, that unsettled the 07, and then he had no choice, went down into the 80, and then they both went around. I'm surprised there was a yellow called for that in terms of they weren't really on the racetrack. They were under the apron, but possibly iRacing still defined it as a yellow. So we'll be under the yellow flag once again. And the question resides now, do you really pit this early? Do you try to get those fresh tires now, or what kind of option would you try to pick here? Actually, never mind. All of them will be.
We're seeing the leader. A couple others drop down pit road. I believe that's kind of the back 10 cars, or 10th on back, that is coming down pit road. That leaves people like Lauren Bundren, Blaze McKinney, JJ Hill, Mark Love, Aaron Mulrooney. That's your top 5 as of right now. And yeah, they kind of got a benefit there, but we haven't really ran a lot of laps on the green flag, so I don't really see a reason for getting those tires as of right now. So I think it's going to be a challenge for people like Brody to get up to the field.
Yeah, it's going to be a challenge, and especially through the draft, when you have all these early yellows, and you start to think about, should I pitch? Should I lose this track position now, try to gain it later? Is there going to be another quick yellow? Am I going to be at risk of being a part of that other yellow? Because we're seeing wrecks happening a little further back in the field, but of course, no exception. We saw this happen right behind 3rd place on the first yellow, so it can happen anywhere on the racetrack. It can revolve any other drivers working around. This track is very wide, so lots of drivers will try to occupy that space, and then sometimes the room just runs out at some point. And either the car doesn't want to cooperate that well, maybe you're trying to push the car a little too hard and it's not responding so well. So the fact that you can get into the wall, you can get a little tight, you can wash up the racetrack, get into another driver beside you, you can get into a crash in that circumstance. So maybe Brody Garner just kind of trying to take a risk maybe early and just get those fresh tires at the moment. But at the same time, it's just here at Auto Club, it's all dependent on the draft. You have to think about who to work with. We saw the dynamic duo of the teammates, Glenn Bundren and Blaze McKinney, working together. So maybe that might be the key. Maybe Brody might have to find somebody to work with or somehow, but he's going to have to work up the field in order to get to where he's at. We currently have 18 drivers now on the lead lap. Kadarius Tave is the second one on the lead lap. And Ezekiel Reyes, I think, might be out of this race for good. We mentioned that he did not grid, but he's currently 11 laps down. He has not made his way back onto the racetrack, so possibly just ending for Ezekiel Reyes and his night at Auto Club. That will for sure send him into a hole that probably will require at least a must winner. So at Bristol next week to be able to contend for the Championship 4 at Phoenix in a couple weeks' time. But Glenn Bundren at the front of the field, 2 Peak Performance drivers at the front. JJ Hill currently sitting third, top 3 off playoff drivers. Not a usual sight, but we usually have the sprinkle of non-playoff drivers. But now that Brody Gardner's down pit road, we have all 3 up here.
3 playoff drivers up front. The next playoff driver is going to be down in the 12th position. That's Nick Miller. Behind him is Keelan Belsha. And then also Parker White, who doesn't have his fast car anymore. And Ezekiel Reyes, obviously 11 laps out of the racetrack, did not start in this race. So, yeah, it's just going to be these guys jostling for a position. And we're going to see how it all goes down. I hope that we don't fall under another caution flag, because I want to go racing. This is a really fun track to race at and watch. So, I'm really anxious to see how these guys all adapt to these old tires. All the guys on new tires trying to get up towards the front. And we are going to go under green once again.
Lap number 13 will be under the green flag. On a restart with the both Peak Performance drivers, Glenn Bundren, Blaze McKinney. They'll easily swoop down to the bottom of the racetrack, try to work together in the draft, and we'll see if we get a longer green flag run this time around after some of those early yellows that we had. But we're going to see through 1 and 2. Seems to be clean now. JJ Hill, Mark Love, guys further back, still struggling to keep up with the rest of the 2 up front. Lots of drivers spanning out, down to the bumps into turn 3. It'll be the both Peak Performance drivers into turn 3.
So close distance between those 2 guys, but the top 3 guys are obviously on 13-lap fresh tires, and every single car behind them has pit. Mark Love leads the train of cars who did pit. He has 10 laps in his tires, just a 3-lap advantage, but that might have been under the caution flag, so I don't really see that as an advantage behind them. Bernie Jr. pitted 7 laps ago, so I think these top 3 are going to have a disadvantage, but not a total disadvantage. But I would definitely expect people like Am Maroney are a lot more experienced, and also one of the drivers in this field who races in real life, raced Legend, went 8 for 8 in the Legend Series last night in real life. So I would expect him as another experienced iRacer to try to make his charge towards the front.
And he's using that experience to his advantage. He went under Mark Love for 4th. Now going to peek under fellow Toyota Camry JJ Hill for 3rd. And it's not going to work. He's going to have to file back into the draft. Try to get a better run going into turn 1. He'll look to the outside. See if he has an opening there. Remember, he has fresh tires, so he will be able to gain a little bit more ground, put in more throttle than these guys up front. JJ Hill has the help there, 3 wide for 2nd, with Blaze McKinney stuck to the outside. JJ Hill stuck in the middle. Now Mark Love, Grayson Trex are going to try to make something as Glenn Bundren defends.
Bold move, but that outside line momentum really kind of stalled him out. Here comes Grayson Trexler charging through the middle, right behind that number 2 car, Bernie. Grayson Trexler, the newest tires in this pack right now, for making us charge to the front, but those 2 loyal teammates up front are staying staying bumper to bumper as of right now. So I wouldn't expect these guys to really try to make a pass. This Blaze McKinney trying to block, trying to protect his teammate, and that's what he's up front.
They'll be side by side between 2 teammates. Blaze McKinney really had no choice. He had to shove with Aaron Mulrooney, but they'll stick side by side. Bundren has the help from the 08 of JJ Hill, and now Mulrooney will try and stick it 3 wide. He gets the space. 3 wide for the race lead going into turn number 3. Trexler will try to help to the bottom, and Aaron Mulrooney will possibly get the lead. They're still fighting to the outside, still 3 wide, so close.
Blaze McKinney pinching him down. I believe they're going to get clear of that 37 car, so it's going to be a side-by-side battle for the lead between the 87 and the 2 car. 2 wide for the 4th place right behind them. As JJ will slide himself back to the inside, but also Brody Garner. Again, I mentioned Grayson Trexler at the newest tires, but that really changed to Brody Garner, who pitted 6 laps ago. Grayson Trexler pitted 10. So Brody Garner's really going to be at a really big advantage here. Now I would expect him to try to shoot up the middle, or maybe make it 3 wide.
He is 3 wide. There's Glenn Bundren to the top. I believe that's Peter Kenny in the middle in that mix as well. They'll be very tight into turn 3. Brody Garner, remember, has those fresher tires along with Aaron Mulrooney and Grayson Trexler, but not playing too much of a factor because the driver in the older tires, currently still leading this race, fought back to the outside, was able to get back around Aaron Mulrooney. Now he's going to have to defend, and as the draft continues to pack through, we're seeing many drivers who are now spreading out start to pack all together as Grayson Trexler moves for the race lead into turn 1 and 2.
His return to the
and
series.
contact.
a save by that 87 car, but his return to the series, he went out of the gate really fast tonight, up towards the lead. But also, here comes Peter Kenny. We haven't seen him in the lead since Las Vegas during pit stops. That number 35 car shoots back to the race lead. It's like we're racing at a super speedway here tonight. That 54 and the 35 car. It's a rare sight to see these three guys in front. That just makes me laugh.
And you can't really count out Peter Kenny either. Remember, he was at Las Vegas. He led laps under speed. He was fighting with the guys up front. He had the race lead. He led laps under the green flag. So you can't really count him out, especially he is still hanging with your race leader, Grayson Trexler, as Mulrooney will try to stoop to the low side. I think Peter did not have the better run. He's going to try and make something work off the draft. He'll have the 87, Mark Love, and Glenn Bundren, along with William Schmidt. Everyone is starting to come back into this fight, along with the SPG teammates. Don't look now, but Sartaj Mon and Nick Miller are also there in the picture.
Murray's still holding his run from the bottom. He's going to have that run up the corner, but here comes Peter Kenny. He's going to have the outside momentum. 3 wide. Blaze McKinney shuts the door on Brody Garner, and here comes Blaze McKinney making it 3 wide for the second spot. Grayson Trexler goes down to defend. I believe they're clear that 35 for Peter Kenny. Grayson Trexler still doing a good job of holding them all at bay.
And they're trying to allocate all of the space they can try to use, at least to keep themselves clear. After all the incidents, they maybe start to think about that a little more, how to spread themselves out a little more, and how to use this space. But right now, it is still all competitive. Brody Garner goes to the inside of McKinney. McKinney will fall back behind Trexler, and we'll have another battle for the lead between Mulrooney Jr. and Trexler. They'll be side by side, and in turn 3 and 4, McKinney will have the run to the outside. We'll see if he follows through to the bottom on the front straightaway. He'll get the outside run, try to sling back in. We got a crash. JJ Hill around on the front straightaway, hard into the outside wall. William Schmidt also involved in there as well. Caution waves at lap number 21. Parker White had to back that thing up again to get around this incident. And another yellow with a playoff driver, in trouble driver behind the championship 4. Now gonna at least use a fast repair or try something to get back in this race.
Yeah, you were calling the race for the lead, but I was looking at that cutoff battle between that 08 and the 37 car. They were right next to each other throughout that pack there, or when they were racing in that pack there. And you know, JJ Hill only needs to finish 2 spots ahead of Glenn Bundren in order to tie up the cutoff spot. So we're gonna go ahead and get a replay and see what happened there.
We'll take a replay. That 08 had a huge ride into the outside wall. That was a hard lick. We'll take another look. This is going into turn 1. This was the lap before, so this is where it all starts to develop and the storm starts to brew. And then here is into turn 3 and 4, side by side with William Schmidt here. Glenn Bundren's there as well. And I think just trying to make the space in a 3 wide. And then the space kind of just runs out. William Schmidt gets into contact with the 08. I saw Kadarius Tate in there as well. I think Andy McDowell also had a part of this as well. Here's another look. Mark Love was to the outside. He got shuffled out of line here right there, and he had to check up just a little bit. And then they were going 3 wide, and then the space is not there. Contact between the 041 and the 08. And then you see trying to avoid the incident. That was Andy McDowell. He had a shot from the 027 of Kadarius Tate. That sent him going into the grass. Fortunately, they were able to keep it at least straight, but they'll have damage at least at some portion of their race cars. And there is JJ Hill getting pushed by Darren Myers, giving him a little help going back to pit road. Not what you want to see for a playoff driver, especially so close where positions matter even more.
While we're looking at a replay, every single car in this front pack just pit, and Mulrooney won the race off of pit road. Blaze McKinney follows suit. Then we have Brody Garner, Grayson Trexler, Sartaj Mann, and Nick Miller. That's your top 6 right now. Glenn Bundren falls all the way back to 10th. So I believe JJ Hill is going to pull in, use his fast repair. Yes, he is. That is a clean Toyota Camry, number 08 car. And he'll get back on track and try to make a run back for it, because he was doing well at the beginning of that run, but I think that tire fall off really cost him a lot of spots. He got to the end.
Speaking of tire fall off, we got a question from Basin Racing in the YouTube chat about that exact topic. He asked, how big is this tire fall off at this track, and is there any multi-groove racing at Auto Club? Charlie, I'll start with you.
Well, the tire fall off here can be pretty severe, and this is one of those tracks where you really it's really easy to push the car up and put a lot of pressure on that right front, especially on corner exits on turns 4 and turns 2. So it's you really have to baby these tires sometimes, and you know you kind of face that tendency to want to run as hard as you can early on in the run because that's so easy to make those passes. But you know it's all about really being conservative, and tires will really cost you some spots late in the run.
And we saw the tire fall off already with some of these drivers, Glenn Bundren most notably, but we saw the multi-groove. At least the multi-groove works in the sense that if you have somebody to help you with this package, if you have draft behind you, you can definitely make that outside line work. As soon as the tires start to fall off, the guys on the inside won't be as fast because they can't stick the throttle as much as the drivers to the outside. So you'll have a little more of an advantage. We already saw how the draft on the outside worked, and drivers who were making it work on the outside, being able to make passes, being able to at least contend with race leaders or drivers at the front of this field. We went that run longer than 5 laps, so that means the officials will revert it back to double file for this restart, and hopefully we won't have a caution within the 5 laps. We'll continue going double file, see how much this works. This is the first time we'll go double file apart from the first caution on lap number 1. And hopefully we'll have drivers making moves and staying clean, and drivers trying to keep space within each other. It'll be Aaron Mulrooney, Brody Garner leading this field back to green. Mulrooney he got involved into an incident, checking up on a restart. Now he's back to the front. Blaze McKinney, Grayson Trexler will occupy row 2, and the SPG teammates of Sartaj and Nick Miller will occupy row number 3. We are back green on a restart, a lap number 24. Easy start by Mulrooney. He's going to have a lot to defend, though, as everyone starts to hook up all together.
That number 2 car up front, that's a pretty common sight among these guys here. A lot of these guys are really comfortable racing with each other, especially these such as iScar. And, you know, they really have that comfortable ability, and it's not a common sight, and it's not an uncommon sight over there to see that number 2 car up front that already dominates a lot of the series up with competition like Hunter Johnson there as well. So I'm not surprised to see that 2 car up front, but there's 2 very experienced drivers in the top 3, top 4, top 5 actually between those guys.
Garner and Sartaj are side by side for 3rd. Meanwhile, McKinney is trying to make something happen to the bottom. He tried to take a peek down low, but it wasn't enough. He did not have enough of momentum to get there to the inside of the 2, but he's going to try and get a run off of turn number 1 and 2 to try and get something happening. He's going to have help from Brody Garner unless the 55 goes down low. Mulrooney will try to sneak back low to break the draft, but here comes McKinney and Garner trying to fight for P2 now, side by side behind them. Now the 49 is in this picture as well.
And also in the picture, still staying in that top 5 is that number 54 of Grayson Trexler, driving for Trexco Simsport. Also here comes Cole Williams. People like Glenn Bundren trying to make up a bit of ground in there as well. And McDowell behind him. And down to the inside for the race lead. Here comes Brody Garner. Can he make it work?
Charlotte Roval race winner is going to try to peek down low on the race leader, Aaron Mulrooney. He'll have semi-help from the 49. He had to check up just a little bit, but the room on the outside and the help there will help the 2 of Mulrooney. He'll have the support from Blaze McKinney and Grayson Trexler. They'll work together 3 by 3 as Nick Miller is now into this top 7. He is going to try to make something happen to the bottom, help these drivers down low. One of the drivers moved up to the bottom there. Now they're going to work all the way to the top. That'll be a line all the way back to Andy McDowell, and he will move down to the inside. We're 3 and 4 all the way for the race lead, lap number 27.
Well, they're trying to shoot a 3 wide on the Grayson Trexler and the number 54 looks like he's going to back out, but I wouldn't be surprised if that outside momentum really propels them past him. Yeah, Nick Miller files back in line on the outside, so I think, you know, when these tires start to fall off, I really think the outside line, just as any other track on iRacing, because, you know, their new track and tire miles are often critiqued by experienced iRacers, especially people like me who are not a fan of it at all. But enough of that. I think with this tire fall off, it's the outside line's really going to be where the help is.
And the help is there for sure. We have a line all the way back to Peter Kenny supporting this outside line. Meanwhile, the inside stretches all the way back to William Schmidt, who now goes into the outside lane. We're seeing drivers manipulate the lanes, choose different lanes into different corners, and as soon as they get the draft and the help, they'll start to move around this racetrack a little more, as Nick Miller will try to look at Grayson Trexler there. He had a little bit of trouble getting by, but now he was able to peek that nose of the Toyota Camry through the outside. He'll be behind McKinney, and we have a battle for the race lead brewing up once again. Garner to the outside of Mulrooney, not going to work. He'll stick behind the 87. Large group in this mix, and one thing about the 2 of Aaron before. We've seen him move, and we saw him at some portions of the race. We saw him at Darlington. We saw him a couple of other times, and in some of these other tracks making great runs. We saw him at Chicago being a part of the group as well. So Maroney definitely experienced, it's in terms of this field, still trying to command though as Garner continues to look to the outside. It is huge. It is like a super speedway race. As now Miller will go look to the inside in turn 3.
And he's going to turn Grayson Trexler. Grayson Trexler, I believe, is going to save that Ford Mustang. What an incredible save of that number 54. He keeps it going.
And he's going to have to check up everyone scrambling around. That was Myers and Peter Kenny trying to get around. Luckily, everyone goes through without contact. We'll take a look. This was 3 wide in a turn 3. That was Nick Miller. And there was contact there with the 54. And a beautiful save by that 54 machine. And everyone scrambling to get around. The 35 almost lost it there, trying to go to the outside. But meanwhile, the top 2 have spread themselves a little bit just by a couple car lengths. Brody Garner and Maroney. I'm surprised Garner has not lost ground here, but he's going to actually take the race lead into turn number 3. He'll still have pressure. They'll be side by side once again as McKinney will try to help Miller, fellow playoff driver.
Yeah, I think I mentioned it before. If you just get to the outside of your race leader, you're going to probably propel by him in just a couple laps, or at least you're going to maintain your ground. And that bottom line's really going to use up their tires trying to hold their ground. I believe he's clear for the moment. I believe he'll use that outside momentum to get clear off of the corner, maybe down the back straightaway. But Brody Garner, with a nose out front, he's your race leader as of right now.
Miller will slip into 3rd with fellow teammate, the 49 of Sartaj, right behind him. And Sartaj barely missed out on the race win at Kansas last week. His fellow teammate got the edge on the outside by just by, I believe, 0.041 seconds. They were that close for the race win at Kansas. The 49 looking for at least to try and get that redemption win and try to push through, get past his teammate, try to get a win. Because when you're a non-playoff driver here, of course you have to think about that there are playoff drivers around you, like the idiot of Miller, like McKinney, Bundren, Parker White. We saw JJ Hill, Keelan Belshaw, all those drivers in this group that are working for a title. You know, you have to watch for them, but we've seen over the course of these races, Charlie, that it doesn't matter, that these guys can lay back, and the drivers that are non-playoff drivers have been working for wins, driving up front, being aggressive, making moves. We're continuing to see this happen with Maroney and Garner, Sartaj up in this field, Andy McDowell, Peter Kenny's now back in this group as well. We're seeing lots of drivers, Charlie, that are minding the playoff drivers, but are making a name for themselves as they got a battle for the race lead. Almost contact with Brody Garner and Maroney.
And Aaron shuts the door. That's kind of a move that's critiqued by a lot of iRacing. They're trying to get that forcer spot under the apron there, and Aaron did not let him go. Almost made contact there. Kind of like a super speedway race with that double yellow line rule. Obviously, there's no penalty at a track like this, but it's still a controversial move to make, and it can often be cheeky, as some of them say.
Brody Garner will fall back to 4th. McKinney slipped his way through on the back straightaway. He will now try to take over 2nd and be the first Chevrolet Camaro in this group apart from Garner. And they'll be the 2 Chevy Camaros all the way back to Glenn Bundren and William Schmidt side by side for behind Andy McDowell into 7th. That's position number 7 they're battling for. And we're still seeing this, but a lot more separation, I'd say. We saw it in before that yellow came out. Lots of drivers in the main group. We saw at least 3-4 drivers in line together on the inside and the outside. Seems like now I think things have calmed down, and I think drivers are giving themselves a little more space as the night starts to progress.
Yeah, it looks like it's calming down from the grandstand, but these guys, in reality, their tires are gone, or are at least fading away, and you can see some of those guys who ran hard really early start to fall back, and you see Sartaj may making a move to the inside. First time we've seen him out front all night. 3 wide for 2nd place, Nick Miller to the bottom, Brody Gunner up top, and Blaze McKinney in a sandwich there, and he'll try to clear him first to get to the outside of Big Miller.
Lap 35 completed out of the 70 that are scheduled to run. McKinney made a close move to the bottom of Aaron Maroney. I thought they were going to have a contact there, but luckily he was able to slip by to the inside and did not make contact with anyone. There's Glenn Bundren peeking to the inside of Peter Kenny. I believe they'll be almost 3 wide. Actually, William Schmidt will shut the door, and McKinney will try to work to the outside. But now, Charlie, it's the key. When you're in this battle at this point, you're 35 laps in, 70-lap race, you still have a long way to go. Is there a time to start thinking about strategy, or is it just kind of guns blazing, kind of going all out in this draft at the moment?
we caught a couple cautions early on, but now I think we're starting to kind of dip our toes into a longer green flag run. So I think, you know, some of those guys ran really hard because we got those cautions. That was a good way to advance position with those short little runs. But now I think it's time to save your tires, at least step back a little bit. I think that's what Andy McDowell is doing. He's up there, but he hasn't really kind of moved into this pack yet. Maybe he's just trying to save his stuff and he can take the charge towards the end, though. So I think conservation mode is on for some of these guys, and they should really focus on trying to make it to the end, really.
Well, at some point, you're looking at, well, we're seeing 3 wide right now, so obviously these guys are not laying back. We're seeing draft play a huge factor as McKinney will go for the race lead on top of Sartaj Mon. Mon will try to sneak to the inside, almost contact, but especially now within this run, you're having the tires start to fall off. You don't have as much grip. You have to lay off a little more, but when you're in this group, you don't really want to slow down to the point where you lose ground and you're not able to contend with this main group, because at some point, if we stay green, guys will go down pit road and the main group will start to kind of work together at least and formulate a formation and try to get down pit road, get some strategy in, and get tires at the same time. So you also don't want to fall out of this group as well. You don't want to be the driver that's seconds back behind these guys, especially if you're in a situation like Peter Kenny, like drivers like Sartaj, where you're in this group and you kind of have no choice but to run as hard as you are and as staying within here, unless you can check up and it can check up the field, potentially causes the wreck, and that'll certainly trigger the yellow, and that won't really help your situation whatsoever. But we're having 2 SPG teammates working together. That's Mulrooney and Miller to the inside of Blaze McKinney, and you're seeing the outside work. They're pinching each other pretty much in 3 and 4 and 1 and 2. And they'll go 3 wide for second place as McDowell stoops low. 2 Toyota Camry, Chevrolet Camaro up top. Mulrooney still leads.
Mulrooney just keeps finding a way to get back up front. Blaze McKinney cleared him for the race lead, something that Brody Garner really couldn't do throughout that run, or Sartaj Band. You see Brody Garner starting to lose some ground there, but Blaze McKinney cleared himself for the lead after a 3-wide move, but Aaron Mulrooney once again found himself back out front here. We see these 2 guys, the 87 and the 88. I believe this battle between these 2 guys is going to be carried all the way to Phoenix there, because these 2, ever since Nick Miller joined, it's been a dogfight.
Yeah, Miller joined and put on a performance unlike any other. He won the race at Charlotte. Of course, he had a different manufacturer. He was running a Chevrolet Camaro at the time, but nonetheless, ever since his switch to the Toyota Camry, he's been just as quick, just as dominant. He's been so close to wins. He won last week at Kansas. He had a battle with that fellow car, the 87. Those 2 were working together, fighting for P2 when Hunter Johnson was out front. Unfortunately, McKinney and Miller got into contact, and the 87 went around, went into damage. He wasn't able to recover for the rest of that race. But these 2, some of the strongest we've seen in this field. Apart from, obviously, drivers who are non-playoff drivers, we're seeing Mulrooney in this field, strong driver. He's not in the playoffs, though. We're seeing Hunter Johnson dominate races. He's also not in the playoffs, so he's just there for wins and just to kind of play keeps. But when you're talking about playoff drivers, situations going into the championship and how much and how competitive it's going to be, and we got contact between Toyota Camrys. That's Andy McDowell and Peter Kenny. They both got into contact. I think a little bit of damage to both of those race cars, but they'll keep it straight. Almost could have been something large. Nonetheless, we'll continue to stay green as Cole Williams is now into this group with Glenn Bundren. He's trying to support him to the outside, but the 87, the 88, 2 of the most competitive drivers in this field. And you mentioned it, they are very efficient at Phoenix Raceway. They are some of the best drivers at that track, and as if they make it to the championship 4 together, the 88 is now locked in, so he doesn't have to worry about points. The 87, though, has a little more to think about as they're 3 wide for the race lead. Miller will drop to the inside, have support from his teammate. They'll continue to try to work as we approach 30 laps remaining in this race.
And Nick Miller's going to clear him. What a great move by that number 88 car, but that outside line is screaming by him. To the outside goes Blaze McKinney. Once again, 3 wide. 1 different driver now on the inside. That's Andy McDowell in that number 20 SPG Evo Simsport 2 Camry. And you see 4 Evo Simsport SPG cars. First, second, third, and fifth right now. Those guys are really, they work really well together. They practice a lot for that stuff, but very dominant team over on the ice car side. But who in the world is going to lead this lap?
I have no idea. I think they'll be almost tied. They're so close. I'm not sure who edged there. I think they were tied almost there with Miller and McKinney there. Andy McDowell had a shot at it, but he lost ground after he did not have the help Behind him, Peter Kenny's in this group. And look who's gaining points here in this main challenger, at least in this main group between these drivers. Glenn Bundren, he's a playoff driver in this group, and he's gaining spots. He's sticking with these main guys, and he's gaining points along the way. He is the last driver before the cutoff until you get to JJ Hill. He's currently in front of all those drivers in the bubble, so he is right now in prime position, and he's ahead of Parker White as well, so he'll gain points. It's just all about these two right here up front, though. The 87 and the 88 with help from Aaron Mulrooney behind them. They'll two be side by side for the race lead. Under 30 laps remaining in this race. 26 laps to go. The two playoff drivers up front.
All right, well, we've reached the halfway point, about 8 laps to go, but we still got a green flag pit stop to go through. In about 10-20 laps, these guys are going to come down, either take fuel in 2 tires, or 4 tires and fuel. That's really going to play a factor in the strategy, but if I'm someone who's coming up here, I would just go ahead and take 4, because if you're on 2 tires, especially in this Cup cars with that large fuel tank, you're really going to be at a disadvantage.
And it's going to be a difficult situation on how they go down a pit road as soon as they go for the green flag pit stops. Miller falls back to, I believe, 4th or 5th behind Peter Kenny, so McKinney will be all the way in the front of this field. And you said it right. We're just past halfway. Drivers are going to start to make green flag pit stops. They can't go all the way on fuel, so they'll be able to go down pit road, make a strategy. Maybe some drivers further back will try to short pit or make something happen along this run to gain spots and a track position that'll be also key through the end of this race. But we're already halfway past this point, so we'll just go through the field, see where everybody is. And you're looking at this main group. We talked about this main group all the way through, but right now the driver in the lead right now, the driver who's won the most races in this season, Blaze McKinney, continuing to try and lock himself into the championship 4. He's been dominant in almost every race he's participated in. He's had some challenges, though. We talked about Nick Miller, Hunter Johnson, Mulrooney, but nonetheless, he continues to lead this lap. He is 6 laps left in this race. Currently sitting first, started 11th. He's gained a lot, Charlie.
And Mulrooney races us a couple times this season so far. Led the most laps out of anyone so far. And Peter Kenny gets into the wall right behind. He's going to save it, though. But Aaron Mulrooney, I believe this is probably the strongest run he's had throughout the season. Less than iRacing one like this year. He's currently sitting second. Still has the most laps led and is in a good spot to pull off the top 5.
Driver in third, the one who's punched his ticket into the championship 4 at Phoenix in a couple weeks' time. Nick Miller is now just kind of hanging in. He is not laid back whatsoever. I was expecting him, now that he was locked in, to kind of lay back, maybe play a little bit more of the conservative game and try something a little different in his approach to stay safe, because he is there. As you got one driver down pit road, a playoff driver, maybe trying to do something strategy-wise. That's JJ Hill down pit road, so we'll see how that develops and whether he's able to gain off of this later in the run. But again, Nick Miller, strong driver, locked into the championship 4 next week. He's still with a good run right now, sitting third.
Yeah, we're going to see if this is actually going to start the pit cycle here. JJ obviously could be the trigger of that. We'll see if anyone comes down. I'm not sure. I don't see anybody slowing up just yet, so we're going to go ahead and continue our through the field here. Andy McDowell currently setting 4th, started 3rd, lost 1 spot. He's been up front. He had a shot for the race lead, made it 3 wide, was on the bottom, but has not led a lap so far. Raced with us a couple times, had a couple of decent finishes, but mainly has not had any luck with us in iRacing Bundren series. So Andy McDowell currently sitting 4th.
And then rounding out this top 5 is the Charlotte Roval winner, Brody Garner, who was close to a 2nd win at Talladega. Fell short to Shane DiMantova on that end, but Brody Garner nonetheless bringing the power for today's race. He has been consistent, and all together today, he started up front. He started on the pole, so he started off well. He's continued through this top 5, and he really hasn't fallen out of it. He's really stayed here, and he's been within this group. Obviously lost position due to draft, but nonetheless he was able to keep it, stay within. He's fought for the lead a couple times. Now fighting with Cole Williams, who is shooting through the outside. Maybe the fresh tires helping, not sure there, but 55 currently sitting 5th.
Yeah, Cole Williams is a lap down. He's about to get it back, but he did pit right behind JJ Hill, so he's going to work on getting that back. He's currently ahead of JJ Hill, so him on the pit stop behind Brody Garner. Currently sitting 6th, started 15th, gained 9 spots, led no laps, but once again, just like Andy McDowell, as cars are going to come down pit road, we got a whole bunch of cars coming down.
Huge group, and we have some of the SPG entries in there as well. Glenn Bundren, looks like everyone in front of Glenn Bundren will stay out. Bundren will stay out and try to lead some laps on his end, gain some extra points, but the leaders, Blaze McKinney, Aaron Mulrooney, Nick Miller, McDowell, Garner, Mon, and William Schmidt will head down pit road, so they will be all the way good until the end. Parker White is also in this group as well. James Youngerman, Mark Love. That'll be all the drivers down pit road. Sartaj just missed his pit stall there, I think by a little bit. He had to switch it back up, get back to the right pit stall. But that'll cost him some time as drivers getting out now. Mulrooney will be out. McKinney will be out. And the green flag pit stop cycle starting now. Bundren still leading this field.
4 tire pit stops for all these guys. Blaze McKinney leads them off. Sartaj Van, like we saw, had a big disadvantage. He's going to be back there with Parker White. But number 37 car is making his pit stop. Darren Myers also follows suit. Grayson Chuck's right behind them as well. This will be your second wave of pit stops coming down here. We're going to reach 20 laps to go, but we're going to see how it wraps around here. I believe Blaze McKinney is going to be in a good spot to pass Glenn Bundren by the time he does come out of the pits. But also, your current leader right now, the only car on the track who hasn't pit besides Eli O'Quinn. Actually, I take that back. He just went in pit road, but Peter Kenny currently sitting out front.
Peter Kenny will be first. Looks like Glenn Bundren made his trip down pit road, and now that allows all the drivers. This starting 5th with Blaze McKinney. They'll all have fresh tires from here on out and stay out and pretty much be good all the way to the end of this race at lap number 70. McKinney will most likely have the lead as soon as they start to switch out. So everyone is going to work together. There's JJ Hill in this group as well. So everyone here now, and they've all went down pit road. Everybody, pretty much everyone in this group at the moment. Trexler's now sitting 4th. You're looking at Cole Williams, Eli O'Quinn. Those drivers also just went down pit road, so they will be up front at the moment. So they were able to get that short pit strategy in time. Cole Williams was able to get by, and then they went all down pit road, and he was able to gain spots down the lead lap, so he will be up here as well. As Peter Kenny now dips down pit road, Cole Williams will be the solo guy out front, in front of Blaze McKinney and all the drivers behind.
And this changes a lot. Your car currently sitting 4th is JJ Hill. He's short pitted, only 3 laps fresher tires on those guys, but that really shows you how much of a difference they make, and there's such a big gap that I think that this really puts him in a good spot to gain a lot of points. Glenn Bundren 10 positions behind him and is almost like 20 seconds behind him on the racetrack. So unless JJ Hill finds a bit of trouble or just has his tire fall off, speed up pretty quickly here, I think JJ Hill is going to have a really, really good points today.
Yeah, JJ Hill, if he stays where he is, we saw him pit first, started this pit cycle entirely, and he gained immensely off of it. Now he's sitting in this top 5, and he will be able to gain points among Glenn Bundren. We'll see if Bundren's able to get by, but it's just a matter of how much they separate. When you have all that space to your advantage, maybe those fresh tires won't mean as much, because Glenn Bundren could be all the way far behind. He'll have those fresh tires for the moment, but as soon as he burns them up, they'll be on the level playing field, and it's all just about whether Bundren will be able to catch. And on a track that's so reliable on drafting, sticking with drivers, and being kind of in tandem, sticking with each other, making the draft work, it probably won't be the best situation for Bundren unless a yellow comes out, and he'll be able to get back within this field, possibly stay on the level playing field of these drivers, and then be able to gain spots from there on out. But currently, Cole Williams is in command of this field. This is the first time we see him up front this entire race. He was also one of the drivers who pit early in the cycle, went a lap down, easily unlapped himself, had the space to do it, had the time to do it, and he managed it perfectly, still leading this race with 16 laps remaining.
Yeah, that gap to the leader hasn't changed at all. It's been hovering around the 4 seconds to 4 seconds and 2/10. So it really hasn't changed a lot, but I would expect it to start to decrease within these last 15 laps unless Aaron Mulrooney gets beside Blaze McKinney, tries to advance his position, which he's not. He's trying to help him gain on him to try to take back the lead as those two try to work together. So I think Cole Williams' best bet is just to run really smooth, hope these guys go side by side, and he can just pull away and get his first win. I believe the second driver, Blaze McKinney, or let's say the first LWRC regular to win in both of the series that we broadcast.
And speaking of side-by-side, we had side-by-side for 4th. That is Andy McDowell with help from Nick Miller to the inside of JJ Hill. Now they're working together. That seems to be the key now, Charlie, is trying to work together. I mean, maybe not so anymore. They're 3 wide at the moment, and JJ Hill has to back out of that one. They'll try to stick together. Miller will try to hang on to 4th and try to catch up to these two up front, McKinney and Mulrooney, all the way up to Cole Williams. But Cole Williams, you mentioned, LWRC regular. We broadcast him on this very channel for the LWRC NASCAR Cup Series. He has won 1 race, and he beat that 87 another track, at a shorter track. He beat him at Phoenix Raceway, but nonetheless, he has been up there. He has been the considerate driver in the Outdoor Racing NASCAR Cup Series. We've talked to him a bunch of times on the interviews, finished top 5, top 3s. He's been able to do it, and with that 87, he's been able to contend. Now he's in prime position unless a yellow is triggered, and then that means pretty much everyone will be re-racked up. But if you're the 42 right now, all you're hoping is just that a caution doesn't come out and you're able to stay in and get your first win in this series.
Yeah, through those last couple laps, the gap has closed 0.6 of a second. So by this rate, Blaze McKinney's going to be right up to his back bumper by the time this race is over, and maybe even past them. But those two are working really well together. I wouldn't be surprised if they catch up, and I really got to give credit to these second and third place drivers, Blaze McKinney and Amber Rooney, just sticking behind each other, but not passing each other, not trying to make any stuff, because they know that it's one of the things that can really hurt you as a driver, especially leading up front, is having a guy who short pits around you. And I believe this is going to be our first strategy win in the iRacing Bundren Line Series. I don't want to jinx him, but if he can pull this off. But yeah, I just want to give an update on this cutoff gap right here. JJ Hill currently sitting in 7th. Julian Bundren currently sitting 14th. So currently JJ Hill is in position to make it to the final 4 and make that 8th place for him as Brody Gardner goes by. So that gap has closed, and now JJ Hill is above the cutoff line.
JJ Hill will have to try and stay there to gain any points he can on Glenn Bundren, because it's 2 points. So it can be 2 positions, and if he's that many positions above at the moment, he'll be comfortable at least at some point. Obviously, you don't want to stay comfortable. You don't want to get more than you need, but you know, JJ Hill in a great spot. He will gain points from this if he stays where he is from here on out. And again, something to mention, when we went to Michigan, the more comparative track, like I said at the top of the broadcast, when you're talking about tracks like these, 2-mile tracks, very wide tracks that are mostly full throttle, mostly reliant on draft, and have that tire fall off, you know, we saw a long green flag run coupled with pit stops. We saw green flag pit stops all the way through, and then a yellow came out late in the race, triggering green-white checkers. We saw the entire thing change up entirely just because one yellow was triggered on the racetrack. Somebody went around and contact was made. That changed up the entire game, and that is something that, you know, could potentially shake up this race. And now we're at 10 laps to go, so it's in the final stint. These drivers are all working together. They're right behind Eli O'Quinn. That gap is slowly closing. Cole Williams has no help behind, and they are catching up now 2.3 seconds behind the race leader.
Yeah, it's almost gained 2 seconds in those last couple of laps there. And also behind them, here comes Nick Miller. If Nick Miller just makes it side by side for second, or second in that pack, or maybe tries to pass Blaze McKinney, that's really going to put them at a disadvantage, because then they're going to slow down. But I think I have faith in these guys, that I believe these guys have enough experience to realize that if they want to catch him and have an opportunity to win, then they can stay single file, catch up, and then they can battle for the race lead. So that gap currently a second between the first and second place. They're gaining. I think they're going to get there at the end.
I think right now the best bet for the 42 is just try to stick it out. And at this point, when they start to catch up, you're going to have to play the blocking game. Or at least if you get past for momentarily, you can try to find an opening in there, get draft, and potentially try to make a fight for this race win. I know at the moment, McKinney, Mulrooney, Miller, McDowell, Schmidt, they're all going to work single file because it's the smartest thing to do. Since they're gaining on the race leader, now 1.5 seconds back. And since they're gaining on this race leader now, working all together, they'll be in the draft, but as soon as they get by the race leader, it's going to be a dogfight all the way to the end of this race, because you're approaching 8 laps to go. The time is running out. You have to try and make something happen, because at any moment, you know, that driver could stay out front and anything can happen, because the draft can affect so much how the positions change and how the drivers get momentum off the corners, in the turns, and what have you. So as they're starting to pick back up to this race leader, as soon as they get by, it's going to be a battle all the way to the end, and that could potentially help the 42 if he sticks in line and he's able to stay in the draft. Now you see how close the battle is. 7 laps to go. We've got a battle all the way to the end of this race. We'll see how it works.
And catching up to someone is one monster, and trying to pass him is a whole different beast. Because we saw how well Aaron Mulrooney was able to manage those lines when he was out front for the race lead on old tires. So we're going to finish this race with about 17 lap tires. Not 17 laps, but around 20 laps on these guys' tires. So those tires have aged a bit, but just under half a second from first to second. They're going to catch up here. We're going to see how this one plays out.
And there they go, right? They can see the 42 clearly in sight. Maroney peeking to the low side. Not sure if he has enough momentum to get there, but nonetheless, he will try. He'll try to peek to the inside of the 87. Here they come under the 42. Maroney does not have the best run. He's going to try to help to the bottom. Cole Williams is going to have to stick to the top, but look at the space there between the 42 and the 88. They'll have considerable space to stay in this draft. Now the 88 will work for third as they battle for the race lead with just 6 laps to go. Here they come, all 3 of them working together.
Aaron Maroney shoved it down to the inside. Blaze McKinney took the lead momentarily, but Aaron Maroney right back to the front. It's now going to be these 3 guys, 2, 87, 88. Maybe the 42 if he can stay behind there. Looks like Andy McDowell is a little too far back to catch up. We're going to wrap around and get 5 laps to go here at Auto Club. It's going to be battle for the race win.
If you're gonna make a move, you have to do it sooner or later, because if not, you won't have enough time to get there for the race win and try to make something happen. McKinney and a caution with 5 laps to go. We got a driver to the inside spinning out. That's Grayson Trexler. And like I said, with the late cautions in Michigan, once again playing a factor in how this race shakes up, they're gonna re-rack and have a level playing field from here on out.
And JJ Hill and Glenn Bundren, they were tied on the cutoff on our live points right now. They are just, JJ's just 2 spots ahead of Glenn, and they are tied on that cutoff line. This restart will change everything. Cole Williams as well, he stayed out. Oh, I bet you all these guys are either going to come pit or either stay out. Cole Williams is in a good spot to really pull off a good finish.
Cole Williams had the perfect, I think the perfect timing, because I mentioned that if he got passed by these race leaders, which did happen, he was able to stick in this draft. He had enough space between himself and Andy McDowell. We'll look at the replay, see what happened in Grayson Trexler. It looks like it was all by himself at this moment in time, but actually gets to the apron and then goes around there and then tries to lock it up on the racetrack and then into the wall, spinning out, stopping, and then that was what triggered the yellow. The leaders were actually right there, mind you, so they were all there in this mix. And you know, Cole Williams, he was able to get back. He's 4th now, so they go down pit road. He'll have at least some spots to gain, hopefully not losing any spots, and he'll be in a good shot to potentially go for top 5, top 3, or maybe even this race win if it goes down to that moment. So it's not out of the woods yet for that 42. I think his strategy played out perfectly. Maybe wasn't hoping for a yellow just yet, but now that they have this, it's going to be all of them as the leaders, and everyone behind Aaron Maroney will come down pit road apart from Eli O'Quinn. But this will be the game changer. How will these drivers exit pit road, and what's going to happen to this next restart?
Yeah, this is the money stop. These guys have to nail their pit stops in order to get track position on this green light circuit, because it's going to act exactly like a super speedway. They're going to get such big runs, bump drafting each other. It's going to be one crazy one for sure. But before we get to the restart, before we end this 70-lap run, we are going to see who wins the race off of pit for our drivers, all filing into their pit stalls. 4 tire stops for each and every one of these guys. Who's going to get out first? And Maroney pops out first, and it's going to wrap around. Who's going to win it?
Here they come. There goes Aaron Maroney. McKinney so close. McKinney barely edges. Bundren will be the first one out. How can you believe it? Glenn Bundren out of pit road first ahead of all the race leaders. He was right there in this group, 2 points behind JJ Hill. They were even on the points, and now he's up to this race lead with just 4 laps remaining. Phenomenal call by Glenn Bundren. Not sure whether it was 2 tires or what, but Glenn Bundren, what a strategy move. He will be in potential, at least a potential race winner if he stays out front. Now ahead of all the lead drivers that were in this main pack. 2
tires on that pit stop while in a field of 4 tire stops here. Darren Myers took 2 as well. I believe that'll be it for the 2 tire stops here. And I can tell you that we saw it earlier in the race for the race lead. That 87 and that 37 hooked up, and they were flying. So I would not be surprised if Blaze McKinney does push Glenn Bundren and at least put him in a really good spot to win this race and punch his ticket into the Final 4. That'll be fantastic for him. Season 2 champion, if he wins this first race of the 2nd season, that'll be amazing.
Cole Williams will be behind Aaron Maroney, so pretty much 1, 2, 3, 4 will remain the same. William Schmidt actually got a spot ahead of Andy McDowell, so they'll be together. Actually, never mind. I think Andy might have had that spot. They'll go 2 by 2 regardless. But quick fact about Cole Williams that we have by Kurt 67. He says that this is Cole Williams' home track. He was born in Fontana, California, where this track resides. So a win for that 42, regardless of the playoff situation. If that 42 can get it done, I think it would mean a lot to him. And going low racing, getting a win at his home track would mean a lot. But for Glenn Bundren and his teammate to be out front, this is the perfect thing you're looking at if you're Peak Performance Motorsports. 2 drivers on either line controlling this field. This will be a pretty much a run all the way to the end unless we have more yellows. This pushes us into a green-white checkered. So we'll go this attempt at a green-white checkered. If a yellow comes out right before they get to the white flag, we'll re-rack them up and do it again. We'll do it all the way up to 3 attempts. But if the leader takes the white flag before any yellow comes out, everything will end the race and we'll run all the way back to the finish line where we'll crown a race winner. We've had so many green-white checkers in this series already, so I think these drivers kind of understand the drill. They know what to do. It's all just dependent on what's going to happen, who's going to make the move late in this race to take a win. And if they're a playoff driver, potentially lock themselves into the championship 4 at Phoenix in 2 weeks. Pace car will come down to pit road. It'll be the 2 Peak Performance Motorsports drivers that'll lead them back to green like they did early in this race. We are back green at Auto Club. Nick Miller's going to make it 3 wide in the middle for P number 2 under the right on top of the 37. He'll fall back. Cole Williams and those 2 tires did not last long. Everyone will come by, and it's going to be Miller McKinney for the race lead off turn number 2.
We've seen these 2 guys battle for a lead so many times here. Glenn Bundren did not get the restart that he wanted. Almost contact with that car behind, and we got a wreck by behind. That's Mark Love all the way to the inside barriers. I don't think that's going to bring on a caution. They're going to wrap around to get the white flag. That's Brody Garner down low, making it 3 wide under Cole Williams. And for the race, they come to the white flag. It's Nick Miller versus Blaze McKinney versus that 2-car of Maroney. We've seen this battle too many times. Carson right behind. We got a caution now. I believe Blaze McKinney just hit the fence.
Oh my goodness. Blaze McKinney, Nick Miller get involved right as the yellow was triggered with 3 laps to go. Both race leaders involved. More drama. I think more popcorn than we said when we were saying what food would be best to eat during this race. Popcorn, definitely it. Both playoff drivers, again with huge contact. I don't think you can really gain from this. They'll definitely use their fast repair and also crashing after the yellow. Sartaj Mon got into the 87. They'll be crashing together. JJ Hill was there as well. Maroney will be in control of this race. Unbelievable showing with 3 laps to go. We'll get a second attempt at a green-white checkered.
I have no words for that one. There was so much happening on my screen. I was calling the wreck behind. We're gonna take a look at that really quickly here.
We'll try to be patient. This was a lot to handle.
I saw that wreck behind, and then all of a sudden I saw Blaze McKinney get torn straight on, and looks like the 08 car just gets into the fence. And I guess...
So this was contact off turn 4. The 08 had the run and just not enough space, and then contact between the 2 sends the 49 into the outside wall. So that triggered the yellow, but meanwhile up front, they were battling side by side, pinching each other for this race lead. This was William Schmidt and a couple of guys further back. They were 3 wide. I'm surprised they didn't get into contact. I was probably looking at them for the most susceptible to be a cause of this yellow. But you see, they start wrecking behind. There's the 49 at the top of your screen. And then this happens right as they were crossing the start-finish line. Bizarre situation for McKinney. I think just trying to side draft and trying to make the space and get the draft off the 88 to not lose the race lead. But in turn, that destroyed both of their race cars.
That is nuts.
I can't believe it.
You don't see that very often. Those leaders wrecking. They almost even made it to the white flag. And imagine if they did make it to the white flag. If that caution did not come out, they would have been out of the picture for the race winner. We did see, I believe, a little bit of retaliation on that 08 car. Obviously, that 08 and that 49 very, very frustrated with each other.
So the 49, I think, was just planning. Yeah, he was planning to get back at this 08, and then he gets into the 87. I think not on purpose. He was just trying to get back at the 08, and then the 87 happened to be there, just trying to putt around and get back to pit road. But meanwhile, everyone will be down pit road in terms of getting damage. James Youngman and I think Mark Love also will be there. They are drivers with huge damage. They got into a wreck all the way in the back straightaway, hitting the inside wall very, very hard. That did not trigger the caution, though, so that'll help them at least a little bit. in turn that they won't lose the lap. They won't lose anything too much. They can have a shot if they have the faster pair to their advantage, and they can pull the trigger on that, try to get back in this race. But boy, serious development. We did not expect that whatsoever, Charlie. We were expecting just side-by-side for the race win. I was expecting to see a battle between those two since I know they've been so dominant. And 2 weeks in a row, they get into crashes late in this race. I can't believe it.
Fireworks on a Monday night here, as basically I believe his engine has expired on the turns 1 and 2. I believe he used his faster pair as well. He's not going to make it around to the pits. And Marini is going to lead them back to the green flag, got the 1-to-go signal, but also we've seen this guy appear multiple times at the end of races as we have a delayed green flag. We're going to just do one more pace lap here, but we saw him do it last week. We've seen him do it a couple times here. Parker White is currently sitting in the 7th position.
Parker White, another talking point with late races. He got his faster pair early in this race. Remember, he was involved in the lap 1 incident with fellow driver right next to him, Andy McDowell. He was involved in a 3-wide incident there with Grayson Trexler. That was lap number 1. Got his faster pair in that after that pit stop, checked up for pretty much every single wreck that happened in front of him. He was pretty much stopped by the time every wreck happened in front of him. He was stopped to make sure that he was going to be clear, that he would get no damage from any of these wrecks. He successfully got by all of them, stayed on this racetrack, obviously got through the pit cycle much like everyone else, and he finished 5th at Kansas late in this race when we did not expect them to be in the run at all. Again, pulling a trick from his sleeve, being in the back of the race the entire time, and then as soon as the late race cautions start to happen, as soon as you get late race drama, pull the trigger, go for it, and try to get a good finish out of this. This is what has allowed Parker White to gain the amount of points that he has. That's exactly why he's 23 points up above the cutoff. Because he gets those finishes, because he's able to muster something at the end of this race, because he's been smart in where he's been on the racetrack. Unbelievable effort by that 95 team. He will gain more points if he stays where he is, or even gains more. If he gains more positions into this top 5, he will be a factor, and he will be good, at least for Bristol. He'll have a comfortable lead and point gap. It's just all about Miller doesn't have to worry too much because he's locked in. Maybe frustrated that the wreck happened, possibly for a win, but he'll be locked in. McKinney is in dangerous position because now Bundren's here. JJ Hill is further back, but he can still gain spots, and Bundren will be in prime position to get something out of this now that they've run 4 laps on their tires. All the drivers on four tires are pretty much, it's gone. It's leveled out now.
Yeah, this is gonna be something else. Again, Cole Williams, who made that pit strategy, took short pitted around the entire field. He's gonna be up there. 2 tires, currently sitting 3rd place in a field of 4 tires. Parker White looking to gain some points as well. Aaron Maroney will lead them back to the green flag, and we're gonna go into our 2nd attempt at a right check. We're gonna go green here. Just 2 more laps at Auto Club.
Can we get to a 3rd attempt, or will we stay here? We'll see what happens. Green flag is back out at Auto Club. Aaron Maroney gets a good jump. Cole Williams will follow with Brody Garner and Parker White behind him. Glenn Bundren will be to the inside of the 55 with Andy McDowell to help him. They'll go into turn 1 and 2. Looks to be clean from here on out. We'll see. Nick Miller's also there as well, so he can gain spots from this also, but they'll be side by side. Here they come for the race lead down the back straightaway. Might be the final time. We'll see if they get a caution from here on out.
Cole Williams moves to the outside with help from Brody Garner. Here comes Glenn Bundren, shoving his car to the inside, uses the apron, gets a little bit of extra rotation there, but that outside line for that 42 is going to work out. They're going to come to the white flag. 3 wide for 2nd place. Brody Garner looking below Glenn Bundren. Cole Williams and Maroney will take the white flag. Heading into turn number 1, still 3 wide. Will they make it back?
Will Brody Garner get to the inside of Glenn Bundren? We're going to see Cole Williams stuck to the outside now. They're still 3 wide. Parker White will be here into the top 5 on the inside as well. Here they come down the back straightaway for the final time. Maroney has the advantage, and if they stay 3 wide, it won't be enough to get up to that Toyota Camry number 2. They'll make contact down into 3 and 4 one more time. Here comes Brody Garner. They're spinning. That's Nick Miller down off of turn number 4. Clear and smooth sailing for Aaron Maroney, who'll take his first win in the Bundren Lawn Care Series here at Fontana. Cole Williams will come home 2nd, Brody Garner 3rd, Parker White in this top 5, and Glenn Bundren as well. Unbelievable finish to this race. Congratulations to Aaron Mulrooney. What a drive there. I didn't think anyone had anything for him with the draft there.
And what a points day for Glenn Bundren. JJ Hill currently finishes in the 14th spot. That's 10 spots behind Glenn Bundren. That cutoff just increased by 10 points. And now JJ Hill will be 12 points under the cutoff. He is kind of, he might be in a must-win situation, or he has to hope that Glenn Bundren does not have a good race. But all the attention should be turned towards that number 2 car of Aaron Mulrooney, as this is a very, very well-deserved victory for him. Led a bunch of laps here out tonight. He's going to burn it down on the front straightaway. Great job for him.
He started at the front of this field. Remember, he got into that incident with a checkup when they went single file restart, and he comes back to take his first win in this season, burning it down, the fireworks blasting on the back straightaway. You'll have James Youngman, I think, just trying to give him some extra moral support here after his victory. What a drive for that number 2 SPG Esports Toyota Camry to take his win. We'll take a look at the results and see exactly where everyone finished. What a race here. We had such a shakeup in those last couple of laps. Aaron Mulrooney takes his first win this season. Another first-time winner in this season. Unbelievable to see. Cole Williams will follow suit in second. Great strategy for that 42 team after short pitting, getting around all the drivers in this field. He rallies back to P number 2. Brody Garner, Charlotte Roval winner, stayed up front this entire race. He comes back with a P3. Glenn Bundren gains so many points from here at Auto Club going into Bristol next week. He finishes 4th. Parker White continues his points, at least to keep his points comfortable. He sits in the top 5 after today's running. Andy McDowell 6th. Sartaj Mon 7th. William Schmidt finishes 8th. Eli O'Quinn comes back to 9th. James Youngman, after wrecking on that first green-white checkered attempt, comes home, P number 10.
Keelan Belch, another playoff driver, digs himself in a deeper hole here. Finishes 11th here. Darren Myers in that 017 car finishes 12th. Nick Miller was going to have a good finish here, but he doesn't have anything to worry about because he is punched in to the final round. JJ Hill in that 08 car finishes 14th. Blaze McKinney 15th. Peter Kenny 16th. Mark Love. And that'll be the first couple cars that are 1 or more laps down. Kadarius Tave 18th. Grayson Trexler, who was removed from the session after causing a caution there. I believe he was disqualified, so he was moved all the way to the back. And Ezekiel Reyes, who did not start the race and is currently 3 spots below the cut line, will finish 20th. Cole Woody, 21st. That's going to round out your field here tonight. A 20-car field, but there was certainly a lot to handle tonight. Lots of good racing between these guys. Hats off, and we're going to slide ourselves aside, and then we're going to go ahead and get interviews started. So, Kenneth, send us off.
Unbelievable race here at Auto Club Speedway. We'll be right back, and once we come back to coverage, we will have KBRN post-race coverage brought to you by SDC. We'll get an interview with all the top drivers and, of course, your race winner, Aaron Mulrooney, and we'll get all the updates and the points and try to get as much as you can to unravel, because this was really a tough pill to swallow for a lot of these drivers and really a lot to take in. So we'll take a breather, we'll take a step aside, we'll get our thoughts situated, and we'll be right back with more coverage of the iRacing Bundren Lawn Care Series from the Auto Club Speedway in Fontana, California. We got more. Stay tuned. Coming up next. Live from the Auto Club Speedway, where we kick off our KBRN post-race coverage, brought to you by SDC. You're looking at the race winner, Aaron Mulrooney, taking his first win of the season in what has been a wild season full of first-time winners and lots of drama like we saw tonight. Tonight was really no different. Saw so many shakeups, lots of playoff drivers in trouble, getting into contact, lots of things happening around the racetrack, but it was a two of Aaron Mulrooney taking a win here tonight. We're going to bring him in the booth. Aaron, first of all, welcome to the KBRN booth. You got a copy with us, first of all?
I do have a copy.
Aaron, what a drive and what a race for you and your SPG team. Really unbelievable run. You got into the top 5, at least through the early portion of this race. You got into a wreck on the single file restart there. You worked your way all the way back up to the top group, and you got around this pitch strategy. You got around the drama, and you take your first win here in this series. First of all, just tell us how that feels to get your first win finally.
Yeah, our number 2 SPG Esports Toyota Camry was pretty good throughout the race. I definitely bonded with the setup at Auto Club early on. I unfortunately didn't have any practice because I got home a little bit too late, so I had to start in the back also. And basically, the whole race was just overcoming adversity and, running our race and making sure we can just make smart moves, have good strategy, and just be up front most of the race. And I was able to work my way through the field and, yeah, bring it home to victory lane at Auto Club. Track I haven't liked in past years, but it's starting to grow on me.
Well, it's definitely starting to grow on you now that you've got a win here and you're feeling a little more comfortable. But Aaron, you were going through that strategy in the green flag pit stops, and things certainly changed when you saw Cole Williams up in front of this field. You were working with Blaze McKinney, Nick Miller, and just I think from your perspective on that final, on the first green-white checkered, I would say, coming to the white flag, just tell us what it was like behind the wheel, kind of having that in front of you, and then having that happen with Miller and McKinney, and having to troop all the way back to win this race at the end of the green-white checker.
Yeah, it was a little bit intense because that late race caution came out, and I thought to myself, "Oh boy, something's gonna happen here." And there was a couple cars in front of me, but I knew they'd be racing for the win, even though we were coming to the white flag. And I just felt if I could get under them or just stay in the area of them, and when they crash, I just go under them. And yeah, that's honestly how I did it. I just waited for them to inevitably crash, and just took advantage and took the opportunity.
Well, you definitely seize the opportunity, and you take your first win in the Bundren Lawn Care Series season. Before we let you go to celebrate here in California on Kobe Bryant Day, you got any sponsors or just teams, anyone you like to thank for making tonight's effort possible?
Yeah, Kenneth, I definitely like to thank you and Charlie for broadcasting. I mean, it's pretty cool to go back and watch these races and show them to my friends. So it's pretty cool. And yeah, I'd just like to thank SPG Esports for supporting me, and happy to bring it home.
Well, we thank you for putting on a great show out there at Auto Club, and of course, congratulations on your win. We hope to see you down in Bristol next week. I know that's going to be even tighter with the playoffs, but I know that you're a non-playoff driver, so you're just going to be here competing, and you've done so efficiently. Aaron, congratulations, and we hope to see you there at Bristol next week.
All right, thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Aaron Mulrooney out of the booth. He takes a win and the checkered flag at California going into Bristol next week. Unbelievable finish for him and all the drivers around him. But we'll stick to second place, where Charlie is with second place finisher 42 LWRC Cup Series regular Cole Williams.
Yes, sir.
Well, Cole, you made a really good strategy move and got yourself out front and led a couple laps, I believe 12 out front there, and those guys were just coming like a freight train right there. But I have to ask, just throughout this whole race, how did that go for you?
Yeah, that I was thinking ever since the caution came out, if this goes flag to flag, that I was gonna short pit. Can't pass it all, and you don't get cut brakes back there. When you're faster and you save tires and be faster than everyone. But I was just rolling. I mean, just trying to save the right front, and that's what I did. And then I was like, all right, here we go. I'm a short pit. And I was thinking about even going one lap earlier, and I probably should have done that. But of course, the caution came out almost at the perfect time. If I would have been the leader, it probably would have been perfect if they were just up on my bumper. But yeah, they were catching fast after they got organized, and I was like looking at the gap. I'm like, there's no way this is gonna happen. And then you start gaining 4/10 a lap because they're all lined up and 4 lap newer tires. So I was just holding on, and I think I probably would have gotten 6th there if I would have went green. So that caution helped me, and then of course Blaze and Nick correct. But yeah, overall a good race for me. I enjoyed it. It's kind of annoying, this package is kind of, it's just literally a plate race down the straightaways. But in the corners, it's all about saving and all about having it at the right time. I saved a lot, just couldn't pass.
and you come up just short in second, kind of similar to what happened at Dover in the LWRC Cup Series. Not to remind you of anything back there, but yeah, you were 3 wide with Brody and Glenn throughout that, pretty much that entire green white checkered, but just coming up short just second. What could you have done differently to maybe try to get closer to that 2 car? Because I know you kind of got your break when people like Blaze McKinney and Nick Miller did get caught up, but what more could you have done to try to steal this win away? Because you led a good bit of laps.
I think maybe if I would have blocked Glenn and just prevented the 3 wide, because that's what I was like. I saw Brody make it 3 wide out the corner. I'm like, all right, well, I'm going for second. There was no way we were catching him going 3 wide. I know Glenn was on older tires. I took right sides there and it benefited for him, but I was surprised how good he held up. I kind of wish I would have did 2 tires myself with how they held up. Aaron was breaking the draft, so I went down there, but I also shot up the racetrack. That's kind of why I did it at Auto Club with Andy and Michael Kenner were beating and banging, and I figured maybe he would blow kind of his arc, and I could cut under, but then Glenn was down there, and then kind of stalled us out there, and then Brody was able to make it 3 wide. I don't no blame to them. It was just kind of everyone's going for position, but. It was also they had the draft down the straightaway because he was running the bottom, so I was kind of just holding on. But I think Brody being on the bottom and Glenn being in the middle on the older tires, I think that kind of negated the bottom, so I was able to hang on the outside. But I wasn't clear until the exit of 4 coming to the checkered, so really not much. Probably could have blocked Glenn and maybe it would have worked, but that's it.
All right, well, Cole, thank you for coming out here and racing with us in the iRacing Bundren Line Case Series. We're going to see you next week in the LWRC Cup Series All-Star Race in the car of tomorrow's at Talladega Superspeed. That's going to be a fun one for sure, but before we send you off and we'll see you then, do you have any teams or anyone that you'd like to give a shout-out to for making this second place run happen?
Just shout out my team, KBueno Racing, of course. Aiden Kirker, it's his birthday, so shout out. Got this P2. Wish it could have been a win, but Sweet 16. So happy birthday, Aiden. Shout out to Lane Stevens and Dominic Muller, and of course, KBueno Racing teammates making this happen. We were good that I had the LWRC to run a few months ago, because that definitely. This track was definitely a bit slower, because of course there was a season in between to a new build, but definitely helped. And yeah, just shout out to Aiden for the birthday.
All right, well, Cole, we'll see you next week and wish you the best of luck.
See you.
Seen that man a lot in our booth on the KBueno Racing Network throughout the LWRC NASCAR Cup Series and the iRacing Bundren Lawn Care Series. We're going to go ahead and get our 3rd place interview, and Brody Garner is trackside with Kenneth, and we'll see Brody's thoughts on this whole ordeal.
He finished 3rd after all of this, and he mentioned Cole Williams. He has been in our booth a couple times, but always great to cross paths with him, and always great to talk to him on the interviews. And Brody, we'll bring you in. First of all, welcome to the KBRN booth. You got a copy with us?
I do.
All right, Brody. Well, you started on pole tonight. You had I'd say a phenomenal race. You were up within this main group pretty much most of the running. You fell back just a little bit, and then through that long green flag run, you were kind of sticking it out with the main group, and there was a little bit of a shakeup there, and then coming to this final green-white checkered, you got through the first one, then going to the second one, all the way to the checkered flag. First of all, walk us through what was going on behind the cockpit and behind the wheel of your race car as everyone was kind of shuffling, going 3 wide with the guys in second.
Well, I had a run, so I just sent it to the inside on, I think, that final restart to the inside of Glenn and I think Cole Williams. I was just trying to clear him and have a shot at Aaron, but both of those guys did an amazing job at staying on the outside and not letting me clear him. And, from there, it was just trying to get a good run off and trying to clear him. That second to final restart, it was just about not dying. It heard everybody crashing behind, and I saw Nick and Blaze get into each other, so just tried to avoid that. Yeah, I'm overall surprised with my performance today. I do not usually do well at Auto Club, so overall I'm happy.
Yeah, you put on a great performance, and you were working with, you saw Glenn Bundren, Cole Williams going 3 wide and trying to catch Aaron Maroney. Was there really anything kind of left, or was there anything kind of you thought you maybe wanted to do differently, maybe to try and catch the 2 at the end of this race, or you were just kind of satisfied with trying to send it down 3 wide and get as much positions as you can?
Sending it 3 wide was really the only option I had. I mean, if I didn't take that run, I probably would have finished 4th or 5th or something. So it was all I could have done. If I had probably 5 to 10 more laps, I probably could have challenged Aaron and got by Cole and maybe, like I said, challenge Aaron. But other than that, I don't think there was anything I could have done.
All right, Brody. But nonetheless, a podium finish must feel great, and I know there's a lot of people that really help you out in terms of you racing on the sim and all of these leagues. So you got anybody to thank, any teams, anybody, or just anyone you'd like to give a shout out to for making tonight's effort possible?
Just Glenn, putting on the league. Costs a lot to put up the hosted sessions, so just a thanks to him.
All right, Brody. Well, congratulations on your P3 effort. A great effort for you in that 55 team. We hope to see you at Bristol next week. I know that's going to be short track fiasco. That's going to be a lot to do over there. So we hope to see you there and going into Phoenix in the final race of the season.
Yep. Thank you.
Brody Garner finishes P3, just short. Was working with Cole Williams, Glenn Bundren. Speaking of Glenn Bundren, Charlie is there trackside with Grassman himself.
Into the booth, Glenn, you got a copy with us? Glenn Bundren.
I got you.
Alright, well, an up and down day for you for sure, but you capped it off with a top 5 finish there. I made a 2-tire strategy, one of the late race pit stops, and it sure paid off for you as you score a top 5 finish here in the iRacing Bundren Lawn Care Series. But throughout that entire race, just how did that go for you?
It was up and down. We led some early on with Blaze. Blaze helped me with that spoiler damage. Thank you to him. I had high expectations in 4th on the grid, thinking, okay, I might try to win this thing. So we burned our stuff up in the lead. That's 100% my fault. And on the pit cycle, I just totally screwed myself and slid through my box and killed the wall. So not much you can do. It's my error. Just it sucks.
Alright, well, with this top 5, going into Bristol next week for the Final 4 cutoff race, you're in a solid spot. You gained a lot of points with that 4th place finish there. So I have to ask, with that little bit of cushion there, what's the strategy going into next week? Because that's going to be a toss-up for sure.
Yeah, definitely. 200 laps around probably the world's fastest half mile. Just, I need to lay back. Which I'm not going to tell myself that, though, but I honestly need to lay back just to get in the championship for Homestead. I'm not Homestead, Phoenix. Good Lord. But just we need to have a solid run next week, and I think we'll be gold for the championship for.
All right, well, Glenn, thank you for coming here and running with us, and we want to thank you for putting up the series and allowing us to broadcast. We'll see you next week, and just hope you have a good run to punch your ticket into the Final 4. But before I let you go, do you have any teams or anyone that you'd like to give a shout-out to for making today's top 5 effort happen?
Absolutely. Peak Performance Motorsports, Corey Hart's Media, Bundren Lawn Care, obviously, and Blaze for Health, and you guys for putting on the series on the YouTube.
All right, we'll see you in 2 weeks. For the next 2 weeks as we start to close out the season, but we wish you the best of luck there, man.
Yeah, thank you.
That's Glenn Bundren under the booth, Grassman himself. One of his, I believe he picked up a few top 5s this season, but it's been a while since we've talked to him up here, and we're going to go ahead and get our final interview for tonight. Parker White finally caps it off with a good finish here. Finished top 5 last week, finishes this week, working really well in the points. Highest points standings driver, that's not counting the wins. So, okay, at this trackside with him, we're going to get in here.
All right, Parker, first of all, welcome to the KBRN booth. You got a copy with us?
Yeah, I got you.
All right, Parker, well, you rallied back at Kansas. You were back in the top 15, I'd say top 20, and you rallied back all the way to 5th. You do it once again here. First of all, just tell us what's been going on as that little trick up your sleeve kind of to be there at the end of the race. And I know you had to really check up for a lot of the wrecks. Just first of all, just tell us how your race went in general. And I know you had a lot to dodge, but it ended up working out for you.
Yeah, I was pretty mad in the first half of the race because I got taken out on lap 1 again, but Fortunately, pit strategy played in our favor, and we cycled back out in like 8th, I think it was. And the green light checkers just set us up to be up there in that top 5 at the end.
Yeah, you certainly had a great run all the way to the end. I knew you were right behind the 3 wide with Garner, Bundren, and Cole Williams. That was certainly a lot of fun to watch. But in other news, you were 23 points ahead of the cutoff coming into tonight. You're now further certifying your cushion, at least in the point standings, going into next week at Bristol. First of all, any thoughts, any kind of expectations, or really just anything you plan to do at Bristol to try and keep your points lead alive?
I'm just gonna try to ride around that like top 15 just to keep it safe. I don't want to like wreck out and like completely ruin my chances. So I'll probably just ride around and keep it safe.
All right, well, Parker, before we let you go and to celebrate your 5th place finish, of course, congratulations on that. You got any teams, any sponsors, or pretty much anyone you'd like to thank for making tonight's effort possible?
Yeah, I'd like to thank McGrath Sim Sport, my team, and everyone that's made this possible for me.
All right, Parker, well, congratulations on the top 5. We hope to see you at Bristol next week. I know that's going to be a hectic one, and going all the way to the championship, I know things are going to get tighter, but we hope to see you there and pretty much throughout the rest of the season. We wish you luck.
All right, thank you.
Parker White out of the booth finishing P5, and that'll finalize all the interviews for tonight's post-race coverage on the KBueno Racing Network here at Auto Club. Charlie, I'm not sure how to really unpack this race. It was a lot to handle. There was a lot to cover. We had those early yellows, which we thought kind of were going to follow into the rest of this race, and it turns out it didn't. We had that long green flag run. We saw green flag pit stops along the way, drivers battling for leads, top 5s, top 3s, top 10s even. We saw so many drivers in that race, and ended up being Aaron Mulrooney at the end, being the victor. Charlie, is there really anything to kind of say as a final thought after this race now that we're going into Bristol and the playoffs continue to shake up even more?
Well, that was once again a point shakeup because Glenn Bundren really put himself in a good spot. So did Parker White. The people who I did not expect to see in a tough spot right now is Blaze McKinney, who is further closer to that cutoff. But the fireworks were blazing tonight on track and off the track as the winner crosses the line. Al Mulrooney, congratulations to him. And what a last couple of restarts there. That was a lot of fun to watch.
Remember, next week the playoffs will continue, at least for the second round. That'll be the elimination race at a short track. Next week, Monday, 8 p.m. Eastern, we'll be live here on the KBueno Racing Network to give you all the coverage from Bristol Motor Speedway. And then after that race, we will decide the Championship 4 that'll run for the Bundren Lawn Care Series Championship at Phoenix in 2 weeks' time. So, for everyone here at the Bundren Lawn Care Series, for Glenn Bundren for putting this league up together and allowing us to put on these shows on our YouTube channel, for all the ones watching in the chat, I know that they were going crazy over those final restarts. It was a lot of fun I hope you guys, and for us, it was a lot of fun. And congratulations to Aaron Mulrooney on taking his first win in the Bundren Lawn Care Series season. And for everyone here at the KBueno Racing Network, for Charlie Baier, my name is Kenneth Bueno, saying good night from Fontana, California. We'll be at Bristol in the Great Coliseum next week, where we'll decide the Championship 4.